So today I wanted to talk a little about disability and how it relates to counseling. Generally, when I bring up the topic of disability to someone, they usually think of one of two things, either someone in a wheelchair or someone that has Down syndrome or a similar developmental condition. But the reality is that disability is a broad spectrum of many different types of conditions and impairments that someone can have. So today I wanted to talk with you all a little bit about some of the therapeutic implications that people with disabilities may bring to the table, particularly the diagnosis process and adjusting your life to now being disabled. So the definition of disability, as you can see, is a pretty broad, all-encompassing term, and there are actually 13 different types of disability. A lot of people don't know that, but there are a lot of different types and a lot of particular needs that people may have. So this is me at my college graduation. About 6 months after, I was diagnosed with a number of genetic conditions, meaning that I was born with them, but also that they are progressive and lifelong. So after that point, I kind of had a bit of an existential crisis, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life and with career and how I was going to plan for the future. The medical model of disability is sort of the social norm that most people with disabilities face, and that is that they are the problem and the source for their problems and disability. The problem with this is that many times disability and conditions cannot be cured, or if they can be improved, it takes a long time. So the medical model is really a little bit more negative, and it promotes ableism, which is the belief that being able-bodied is superior than being unable-bodied. The social model of disability is a little more proactive, and instead of viewing people as both the source and the cure for their disability, it looks at the environment of that individual and ways that they can find accessibility and improvement. So instead of blaming the individual or trying to get them to become undisabled, you want to look at ways in which they can achieve what they want to achieve, access what they want to access. The spoon theory is a nice way to describe life with a chronic illness or pain, and it's kind of talking about the allotment of energy that you have to get through your day. So if you start out with 12 spoons of energy, which most of us don't, then you would want to know how to spend your energy throughout the day. So it's just talking about just that fatigue, that energy expenditure that people have difficulty, and just adjustments that you have to make to your life. A lot of rest and downtime for people with chronic illness. This is a depiction of the pain cycle, and this applies to CBT. And it's kind of the concept of it's very easy to get a negative cycle of pain where it affects you. It can prompt anxiety and depression along with other mental effects. And CBT has a lot of literature on chronic pain and the interventions and the empirical support. So it's definitely a very thorough method. It's very precise, and there's a lot of research to support it, and especially to address the thoughts and feelings that come with being in pain a lot of the time. And actually, the CBT model right here can be applied to pain. If the situation is pain or a physical sensation, you think about the thoughts, the emotions, and the behaviors that result from that. And so instead of kind of going into this cycle where you get maybe depressed or anxious, you can kind of try to reframe your thinking and start earlier on. And so it's a little more proactive that way. Also, caregivers have a lot of therapeutic interventions, just caregiver stress, the lack of balance sometimes. And so I did want to talk a bit about family therapy for both caregivers and siblings and other family members, because most of the time when someone is disabled, it doesn't just affect them. Usually they have family and friends. And so in family systems, you want to think of a system of disability rather than just the individual, in the sense of how does this affect the siblings, how does this affect the parents, the caregiver, and so you want to kind of have everyone involved, and this can help with improving quality of life for the whole family and not even just for the individual. So there's a lot of, again, interesting literature out there in family systems for family therapy of people with disabilities of any type. This image is about adjusting to mental illness. But I like it because it also applies to physical illness and disability as well. It starts out as kind of scary, but the more you expose yourself and the longer time goes on, it just becomes your new normal. And I like this statement here. It's not negative to say I'm disabled, it's a statement of fact. And I wanted to talk also about positive psychology and how it can be implemented on working with people with disabilities and pain and illness. And I really appreciate positive psychology, and I wish that more literature was applied to those areas. But this is the concept of flourishing or having a very fulfilled life. And as you can see, people with disabilities need all of these things just as much as the rest of us. They need relationship, they need engagement, positivity, vitality, achievement, and meaning. And what that looks like for someone who is disabled may look different than for someone that's able bodied. But this is a great model to assess kind of the life of an individual with any kind of disability and see if there's areas in which they are in need or lacking. Finally, I wanted to talk about this poem, Welcome to Holland, which is written for parents of children that are diagnosed with Down syndrome or developmental disability, but it's really applicable to being diagnosed with any disability, especially the ones that are more serious. And so I would love to use this one day in therapy because I think it really pinpoints the adjustment process that you have to make. And it talks about when you're going to have a baby, it's like you're planning a vacation to Italy. You're all excited. You get a whole bunch of guidebooks. You learn a few phrases so you can get around. And then it comes time to pack your bags and head for the airport. Only when you land, the stewardess says, "Welcome to Holland." You look at one another in disbelief and shock, saying, "Holland? What are you talking about? I signed up for Italy." But they explain that there's been a change of plan and that you've landed in Holland and there you must stay. "But I don't know anything about Holland," you say. "I don't want to stay." But stay you do. You go out and buy some new guidebooks. You learn some new phrases, and you meet people you never knew existed. The important thing is that you are not in a bad place filled with despair. And I'm going to skip forward a little bit. The pain of that diagnosis will never go away. You have to accept the pain because the loss of that dream and that plan is a very significant loss. But if you spend your life mourning the fact that you didn't go to Italy, you will never be free to enjoy the very special, very lovely things about Holland. So today I wanted to talk about